Hey, what's up, guys? It's Reed Young, aka Shooter here. I'm going to be bringing you guys part 3 of who knows how many parts videos of a $50 buy-in, no limit heads up match I'm playing against this sir whose name is All Chia. What we've learned in the past couple videos, if you guys have been watching and liking, thank you by the way for that, is this guy just is pretty passive pre-flop. So I've been raising to 3 times the big blind on the regular, and he's just either folding or calling out of position a lot of the time, and never really putting me to any difficult decisions pre-flop. So I've been raising a bit larger than I might if this were a bit better player, just expecting to get flatted, and I can take a flop in position with a slightly larger pot, get a lot more value out of him the times that we both have good hands, and continuation bet a bit more often than you might against a good player who's mixing it up with check raises and check calls with lighter hands on the flop. So pretty easy to play against him so far. Nothing spectacular I've seen. I've just been playing pretty solid and taking pots here and there that he's playing a bit weakly in. So here I decided not to 3-bet King Jack. I think it's a pretty important decision against this guy because he just isn't really calling any re-raises pre-flop. So if I'm going to extract value from a hand like Jack 8 suited, say it's a Jack high board, or like King 5 suited on a King high board, of course without 2 pairs I'm talking about. If I want to outkick him, it's going to have to be in a single raise pot, because if I 3-bet, he's not going to be calling a re-raise with a worse king or a worse jack. So I decided to flat and try to get some value that way. Essentially, if I do get value from this guy in a spot where I'm not just stealing the pot, it's going to be some sort of cooler situation, so I definitely want to try to set those up as much as possible. And I can just 3-bet a polarized range pre-flop, so I can 3-bet, like 9s or better, an ace queen, and then just let him call with a few worse hands, and I can get some value and protect my bluffs. And my bluffs would just be stuff like, really anything 6-4 suited, something that doesn't play quite as well out of position, that it's just going to get a fold enough of the time that it's probably automatically profitable. In hindsight, I probably could have been 3-betting this guy a lot more than I am. On this turn, the reason I paused is because I think this player is just going to have an ace or a good draw a lot of the time. So if he has an ace, I'm in pretty bad shape. If he has an ace with a heart, I'm in terrible shape. And if he has something like Queen 9 with a Queen of Hearts, I'm doing okay, but not that great. A lot of rivers are going to be pretty difficult for me to play well. If he is just bluffing me with like 10-9, I still have to worry about a heart on the river. It's pretty unlikely I can check call on a river heart and be good against this guy. Whereas a lot of other players, maybe they're betting like 7-5 of spades on this turn always, and semi-bluffing with their heart draws enough of the time or something like that. On a river heart, their range is actually very polarized, so I can maybe find a hero call that way. But against this guy, I think it's totally out of the question. And what's actually happening on this turn is that I don't really have that great implied odds, because I check call and I'm racing or way behind, and then I have to face a bet on the river. So if you guys want like a quick little tip, you can think about it as like an overbet on the turn. So instead of check calling like 466 into a $7 pot here, think about me check calling like $15 on this turn. And if I would want to do that against his range. And I think the answer is pretty clearly no. If I had something like ace 10 with the 10 of hearts, I would be in there and trying to navigate the river as best I could. So if you guys can tell, I'm a little bit sick, and that's why I haven't put out videos in a bit. My friend John got me sick as hell, so if you want to comment some hate toward John, it's not going to be met with any hostility. And that way, John, if you're watching, you can see the people want some poker videos here, so the cold is not appreciated, sir. So 8-3 suited, continuing, just raising any two really on the button because he's reacting so poorly. I flop a flush, pretty sweet. Same old, just betting 2 into 3. And I think if he raises, the best play here would be to call, because I expect his range to be pretty polarized. So I would expect him to have a flush, occasionally king 10, and occasionally 2s. I would expect pretty much anyone to 3-bet, like pocket kings or pocket 10s pre-flop. So, oh no, no, no. Okay, I really don't like this, but I can see what I was thinking. I guess I've just been taking away every single pot from him, and I expect the majority of his range to be draws here. So if I could get him to shove something like Queen 10, or not Queen 10, Queen Jack offsuit, it would be amazing here. I mean, if I could get all the money in when he's drawing dead, that would be sweet. I'm not sure if he's that type of player, though. I don't think he's just going to think I'm completely bluffing here. Yeah, I guess one other small thing, I made it 16, so it's 10 for him to call. It's like a nice round number. Probably doesn't frighten him too much. Sometimes that works on fish. It's not negligible, I suppose. But I think the range I'm going to get it in against here, if he does go all in, and I would, for the most part, just expect him to go all in or fold to this bet, which, incidentally makes it a pretty great bet for a bluff against a lot of people. I would expect him to go all in or fold here and either have something like king 10 or 2s, both of which have some equity against my hand, a flush draw with a spade that's bigger than my flush, so, at least a 7 outer, or a hand that has me drawing dead. So it's not like the most amazing situation to get all in on the flop. It's not terrible either, but I think if I can keep in hands like Queen 10 offsuit by just flatting here and letting him bluff on the turn and river, I'll probably make more money that way. Additionally, I don't really scare him off of any hands like King Jack offsuit if he does happen to have something like that, and he might be pretty worried about jamming it here. Although I don't think he's going to fold top pair at this point. I've just been stealing every single pot from him. So whatever he has here, I don't think he's folding. You can see he has ace king with the ace of spades, so pretty much one of the hands that we expect him to have, although not 3-betting ace king pre-flop is kind of ridiculous. It's definitely a good check raise and probably a good shove by him, unless he assumed that, we'd already read his soul. So on that account, anything he does, I guess, could be wrong, but I don't think I like the 3-bet there on the flop. I just get it in racing or behind too often, I think, against such a tight player. Against pretty much anyone else in the world, it's going to be a good play there. Excuse me, guys. So I think, I could have been 3-betting him here, especially right after he lost a stack to me. I don't really expect him to be 4-bet happy unless he has a hand he's going to be going with. So I would expect him to 4-bet a little bit wider for value, but probably not as much bluffing. Just in my experience, that's the way these guys play. So I guess that said, I can talk a little bit about why I'm choosing to just call with 3s here. I think 3-betting 3s can be good if you have a good 5-bet shove. So in other words, if I 3-bet here, if I make it 450, he makes it 950 or 10, can I go all in profitably? Is he going to be bluffing enough of the time? Something like probably 48% of the time, give or take, somewhere in there. And I don't think the answer is yes against this guy. He's just too tight. And like we said, I think he's going to be playing a little, actually just pretty well against a shove with 3s here. So I'd expect him to be 4-betting pretty much no bluffs, and a lot of hands like ace-jack suited or pocket 8s, where he's going to be calling it off. Not really thinking much besides he just wants to get another stack in the middle and try to win back his buy-in that he just lost. And if that's the case, shoving 3s by 5-betting over his 4-bet if I 3-bet is going to be a pretty bad play. So I think calling is good. heads up, already having a pair is pretty awesome. Even on like King 7-2 or something like that, I can check call and expect to see a showdown a decent amount of the time, just because he's going to give me too much credit and he's too passive. I'd pretty much check call against about anyone though on that board texture, and when he's raising about 80% of his hands pre-flop, and just continuation betting boards like that probably close to 100% of the time, I think you can get away with it. Here I do 3-bet. I have ace-4. I don't think it plays particularly well out of position against this type of player who's just extremely tight. I don't expect him to barrel a lot, so I have a tough time getting ace-high to showdown, and especially in larger pots. So I don't have a lot of value that way. What is cool about it though is I have a good blocker, so it's going to cut down on the combinations of like ace-jack, or like ace-king or whatever he could have that's really good, that could stand to call this re-raise or to re-raise my re-raise. So when I have one of the aces in the deck, it just makes it a bit more unlikely that he does. So I decided to use this hand to bluff with pre-flop, and if I do flop an ace, most of the time it's going to be the best hand. Sometimes you definitely want to bluff pre-flop to balance out with your value hands. So like I said, I'm going to be going with a plan of value betting or value raising pre-flop with a pretty polarized range. So I think 9s and better and ace-queen or something like that against this guy, just expecting him to fold most of the time, but I don't want to make it too easy on him. I don't want to make it easy for him to figure out what I'm doing. Here, he's 3-betting me, and you guys saw he didn't even 3-bet ace-king, and he hasn't really 3-bet the entire match until the hand right after I 3-bet him. So I think there's a very, very good chance here that he is completely full of crap, and I would have liked to have seen myself call. I think Jack-10 plays pretty well in position. I guess I was waffling in between it because on one hand, all of those factors I just mentioned add up to, it just seems like he's losing his mind a little bit here. He's pretty frustrated, and I think that, here, let me see if I can go back to the hand. I think that he's just going to be playing a lot worse here in general, and there's something to be said for gambling it up a little bit pre-flop if you think you can win. And I think Jack-10 plays well enough, even against a very strong range, to take a flop in position, getting pretty good odds already. I'm already getting 2-1 on my call, and with implied odds, if he has aces and it comes like Jack-10 too, he's never folding. If I flop a draw, I can play it pretty well because he's not barreling effectively. I mean, there's a lot of really good factors here, and I think I should have taken those into account a bit more before I folded. I don't like the fold. And what I was about to say, I guess, is that if I do win a stack, however unlikely it is at this point, I think it's extremely likely that he's just going to completely lose his mind and tilt away like 5 buy-ins to me. So if you take that into account as well, not that I'm always going to win 5 buy-ins or anything like that, but it's definitely going to add some value here. So, I mean, if you think about it in the future, if that value is worth like $2, I could add that to the value of this hand, and I think that's definitely the case. So I'm actually getting like extremely good odds to call here pre-flop, all things considered, and I definitely wish that I did, but unfortunately I end up folding, which I think is a small mistake. Really tight players like this guy though, they tend to stay pretty tight unless you get under their skin. Then they kind of just like lose their minds. Like I said, I think it's pretty likely we're getting to that point. Also, he like instantly folded to my 3-bet when I had ace-4, so I think that's probably pretty indicative of some frustration as well. Little timing tells like that are important to pay attention to, but I don't think they're like the end all be all in really any poker match. I mean, who knows, he could just like really have had to go to the bathroom or something and tried to fold before he ran to the toilet. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed part 3 of this video. we've got a little bit of footage left for a part 4, so if we could get this one up to 20 likes, I would appreciate it, and I will get part 4 out to you guys. Hopefully I won't be sick and stuffy by that point. So part 4, the finale, coming up. Take care, guys.